Hello, everybody. Today we're learning the second section about Mincha, and we're talking about the order of prayer. We talked last week about how Elijah was answered during the prayer of Mincha, and the word Mincha literally means offering. Um, and so there's even an idea which we didn't discuss, which is that in the future, every Shmoneh Esrei we end with, "May it be your will that the service of the korbanot and the offerings will come back to the temple." Rav Kook suggested that because it uses the word mincha there instead of korban, that it's only the vegetarian offerings, so that in the future the whole temple will be vegetarian. It's an idea. It's not a prophecy or for sure, but it makes a lot of sense because we do pray mincha, and it's the hardest to actually make because we said that there's 7.5 hours for the morning one, there's 12 hours for the night one. Mincha is 5.5 hours, and usually we're still working until the end of the day. So in the winter, for sure, 9 to 5 does not work for mincha. I didn't open the right one?
Yeah, I'm gonna sit.
Oh, okay. So, so that's the idea about Mincha. So, the majority of Geonim and Rishonim maintain that there is no need to recite the passages of the Korbanot before praying Mincha. Neither the Rambam in Ilchot Tefillah nor the Shulchan Aruch mention that Korbanot are recited at Mincha. Still, there are Rishonim who write that the passages of the Tamid and the Pitum Ktoret are recited before Mincha, just as it is proper to say them before Shacharit. So the people who follow the Ari and Hasidim definitely do, also a lot of Sephardim. But again, because the time for Mincha is short, your boss doesn't have to give you the extra 10 minutes for saying Korbanot. So if you're in a shul and you're already retired and you have to do that, and you have time to do that, then that's okay. But otherwise, you should definitely not compromise work for this. Those who follow the Ari are very meticulous about reciting Korbanot before Mincha. All other are accustomed to saying Tehillah David, Ashrei, before the Midah of Mincha, and as we mentioned prior, during the morning service, this is the third and last time for the day to say Ashrei, and because it is proper to praise Hashem prior to praying the Amidah. It is indeed a kind of Pesukei Zimra before the Mincha prayer, so a shortened Pesukei Zimra, because again, it's in a time of the day that we don't have that much time. However, it is not an absolute obligation to recite it before Mincha, and therefore in a situation in which the time to pray Mincha is about to lapse, one must skip Tehillah David and immediately start reciting the Amidah. Likewise, if the congregation is ready to begin the Amidah, and he just came in a few minutes late, he should skip Tehillah David so that he can start praying together with them in a minyan. Even though it's not the absolute obligation, because if we say the full Amidah and then the full repetition, then he can catch up. But in order to do as much as possible together with the community, you should do that. And then if you do skip it, you can make it up afterwards, because you can always say Psalm 145 any time of the day. Sorry. Mm-hmm. After Tehillah David, the Chazan recites half Kaddish, which is what we talked about last week, separating between major parts of the Tefillah, following with which the congregation begins the silent Amidah. Subsequently, the Chazan says Chazarat Hashatz, the repetition. Birkat Kohanim is not recited in Chazarat Hashatz of Mincha for fear that perhaps the Kohanim drank wine at the meal beforehand and will come to bless the nation when they are inebriated. So even if somebody says, I'm not, we might think that if there's more than one Kohen there, so you are and you aren't, we don't separate like that. We don't want to embarrass anybody. And so we just don't do it. However, on a public fast day, there is no such concern, and therefore they bless the nation then on condition that the congregation prays after Plaga Mincha, as explained earlier in this book in chapter 20. After the Amidah, prayers of supplication, Tachanun, are recited. According to the Sephardi custom, Vidui, the 13 attributes of mercy, and the Nefilat Apayim are all said, whereas according to the Ashkenazic and Yemenite Baladi Minhag, only Nefilat Apayim is recited. Subsequently, the Chazan says Kaddish Titkabal, the full Kaddish, to accept our prayers. That's what Titkabal means. On days on which Tachanun is not recited, as explained earlier in this book, the Chazan recites Kaddish Kabal immediately following the Amidah repetition. So this is pretty simple, and we all do this every day, but just to specify and to explain what the reason for this order is and how it was brought to be. Last, the Sephardim say Lanatzach bin Ginot, Psalm 67, which Nusach Sfarad and Sephardi say in the morning before Baruch She'amar, followed by Mornis Kaddish, and conclude the prayer with Aleinu Shabeach. So for sure, we know that Ashkenazim do not, but I just wanted to explain about this Mizmor. So I'm not exactly sure historically when it started, but there was, we talked last week about the idea that if you're saying Kaddish for more than one person, then you should try to concentrate each time on the one person that you're concentrating on. So they added all kinds of Kaddishim in the middle. So if we went through the week day, then in the morning here in the Yeshiva, we do Aleinu and Shir Shayom immediately following, and then the Mornis Kaddish, but there are a lot of communities that separate them also with the Mornis Kaddish to give another opportunity. In the Sepharad and Sephardi, where we say Enke Eloheinu, they also say Kaddish Darabanan, and even though it's not the mourner's job to say it because it's after reciting passages from the rabbinical text, it is customary for the mourner to do that. Again, to give them another opportunity. In Mincha, the Sephardim say Lanatzach, Psalm 67, even though they already said it in the morning, and there's a lot of secrets that the Ari wrote about how powerful that psalm is. And there are some people who, the scribe writes it in the shape of a 7-branch menorah, and they turn the page to read it like that, like verses, and I mean,
yeah, I tried to do that, but it was very hard.
Yeah, it's
They give you a protractor.
you're doing circles in your head.
No, it's tricky to write it.
We tried to write it as scribe.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because they write it with the Torah.
Right. Also.
I don't know why the custom developed to write it with the Torah.
And so at Marv, the custom of, again, Sephardim is to say Psalm 121, which we say today for the soldiers and for the wounded, and again another Mourner's Kaddish. And on Friday night, this is an argument that has been in our shul in Beersheba for a very long time, until the liturgy committee sat together and decided, no, it's not a Mourner's Kaddish. So the Sephard and Sephardi custom is to say Psalm 23 on Friday night after the Kaddish Titkabal. And again, we don't know when that started and why. It seems like just like all these other little psalms to basically make another break to say another Kaddish. But in the shul there, they argued and they finally decided that the Chazan says the Kaddish Titkabal, and if people say Mizmor David, they'll wait for them to say also Kaddish Yatom, the Mourner's Kaddish. But if they don't, we're just going to straight to Aleinu and then followed by Mourner's Kaddish. But all of these Mizmorim is because of that idea. And again, we don't know when it started, but he concludes here, Ashkenazim do not recite Lanatzach. They say Aleinu Shabeach and then the Mourner's Kaddish. So that is the order of Mincha. And tomorrow we're going to talk about the actual correspondence to the Tamid offering in the temple.